Alrighty, hey guys, it's Garrison, and it's time for another video. I feel like I apologize for my absence every video, but I feel like you guys are pretty much used to it now. But this one's gonna be long overdue. It's gonna be basically why I chose a 320i. Of course, I've got notes on my iPad here. Basically what I cross-shopped with, why I sold the Civic, which I thought I've kind of picked up on, but some people still ask. And basically like the purchasing process in general. So this is basically not a filler video, but we are taking delivery of a car later this month, and I will kind of go more in depth in that later in the video. But long story short, I replaced the Civic due to wanting a more substantial premium car. The Civic was a great high school, first year college car. It's a great car in general because I literally did nothing to it. I drove it almost, I think, 60,000 miles in the 3 years I had it, just guesstimating. But no, it was a phenomenal car, and I really had no reason to get rid of it, but I did want something a little bit more substantial. Long story short, I've driven about 10,000 miles so far in 6 months owning the BMW. So, and that's kind of a lot considering I live 3 miles from my job and I live on campus at school. So when you think about it, that's kind of significant. So I did do a lot of driving, a lot of highway driving. So I just wanted something that was a little bit better, more composed on the highway, wasn't kind of oriented for a city car. So kind of what I cross-shopped with. Definitely the first thing I wanted was a 2013 or newer Accord EXL or Touring. But their resale is insanely high. Like an EXL I wanted a V6, but I wasn't like only looking for V6 models. An EXL or a Touring, I really wanted that radar cruise and those LED headlights, but the resale was insane. I couldn't get anything with less than 75,000 miles, honestly, at the time of my purchase. And that was the main deciding factor, was I wasn't gonna get a car that I was getting rid of the Civic because I was about to roll 100,000. I wasn't gonna get another car with a ton of miles. So 2013 Accord was out. I was looking at kind of 2012 or newer G25 and G37s. Infiniti, they were kind of a proven car in the fact that they were reliable, they were premium, they were really sporty, nice driving cars. G25s are extremely rare though. That's kind of what I wanted because G37 fuel economy is insane. It sucks premium fuel. It's like 19 city, 26 highway, I think it is. And that's if you find one that's not all-wheel drive. But gas mileage was kind of like the deciding factor. Was I would find a G37, but I couldn't justify sucking down the premium gas. So next on the list was a 2013 or newer ATS. ATS was kind of a big contender just because I thought I could get more for my money. But it turns out all I could really get was a 2.5 liter i4. I couldn't even get a turbo model. Their reliability is just as bad, if not worse, than the 3 Series. And so I didn't really want to take the risk there if I did track down a 2 liter. There was one that was pearl white on beige that I really liked. I was really kind of considering that one, and that was kind of a fallback plan. But I'm really glad that wasn't the case. I mean, Cadillac still has the reputation for being a little bit of an older demographic of a car. And then I was looking at 2014 or newer A3s. I really like the A3, but it was so tiny. It was really, really tiny. And basically when you get a 1.5 or a 1.8 liter model, excuse me, it's front wheel drive, it's basically a Jetta. And so I couldn't really get past the point of, unless you get a 2 liter Quattro model, it wasn't really a Jetta anymore. And I couldn't get a 2 liter Quattro model in my budget. I was basically limited to the 1.8 turbo. And so I couldn't really justify the difference between those. And then as far as F30s in general went, I wasn't picky about 320i versus 328. I knew I didn't want a 335. It was more about options and service history and kind of like tracking down one that I wasn't sketchy about. Most F30s, excuse me, that were in my budget were sketchy. They had been like wrecked and were in Kansas City, Orlando, and New York, and they had 5 different owners. Like, it was just insane. Like, it wasn't a car that I would feel confident in wanting to put 100,000 miles on. And so that's kind of why I was able to track down this car, and I'll go in more about the backstory on this car later. But I was finding 328s with plenty of options, but I was much more comfortable getting a car that I kind of knew the history of. And that kind of brings us into this car. So we went from browsing for cars to purchasing within a week and a half about. So the previous owners of this car, it was a lease return. So it was of course a 3-year, 36,000 mile lease to a woman in Raleigh, and she turned it in for at a Maserati dealer, assumingly she got a Ghibli or something. And so the next owner was who I purchased it from. I purchased it private party from a foreign exchange student at the University of Charlotte. Whoa, I'm dumb. It's not University of Charlotte, it's UNC Charlotte. And so I ended up driving to Charlotte twice, which is about 4 hours away from where I live. And so, but that was worth it. 4 hours one way. I was able to make a trip out of it one of the times. So she was a foreign exchange student, she was a senior, and she totaled her E-class. And so she needed a car just to carry her through her senior year. She drove to Raleigh, she basically just paid cash for this and drove this for 1 year during her college. And it has always been serviced at Hendrick BMW, so no expenses were spared. Like, she was from Saudi Arabia. And so long story short, when we came to pick up the car, she had her YSL card case, she had 3 Cartier stacked love bracelets. Money wasn't an issue here. Let's just make that clear. This car for her was like a Corolla. It was like an appliance. I asked her what she was going to drive when she went back home, and she said, I don't drive when I go home, I get driven. I was like, okay, must be nice. But she was very wealthy, and so there was really like no reason for her to skimp on maintenance and stuff like that. So that's why I felt so comfortable getting this car, was I was able to call Hendrick BMW and be like, hey, can we pull the records on this? And they were like, yes, literally had every recommended service done. She was basically flying back to Saudi Arabia after graduation, and I bought this car late May. And I basically went to Massey, where I work, and I said, you know, like, what do you think CarMax has offered this woman? And so I basically came $500 above what CarMax's offer was, what we estimate it was. And she kind of left me hanging for like 2 or 3 days waiting for a better offer. And then she called me and she said, you know, like, I'll accept. And so I got this car for a steal. Even on the market right now, I checked periodically just to see like what I could get if I was searching right now. And just now, after almost 6 or 7 months, I'm just now being able to attain this kind of car at my previous budget. And so that's why I'm really lucky to have been able to get such a good deal on this car, and I probably wouldn't have a 3 Series to this day if it wasn't for catching such a good deal. My overall ownership and impressions are going to be reserved for the upcoming ownership update. It's going to be a little bit bigger of a video, and that's why it's taking so long. I'm definitely not rushing it by any means. I'm having one of my friends that owns a photography business is going to help me some, and so that'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. So definitely something to look forward to. And we are taking delivery of a car later this month. I did post a little preview on the Think Outside the Cube Instagram, and so you guys can definitely take a look at that to get an idea or guess what it would be. It won't necessarily be a car for my mother, and I can explain more about that in the video. This is kind of a car for my dad. I can't spoil anything, so I'm not going to talk too much, but it's not a replacement for my mother, so it's not going to be a really, really nice car. This is kind of more on the disposable end, and you'll see that in the video. Nonetheless, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I've been rambling for 10 minutes now. It feels like it's been like 3, but it's been 10. But thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about my ownership so far, definitely try and reserve them for the update video. I do plan on that being mid-March. I do have spring break in mid-March, so I plan on doing a lot of filming before then and kind of throwing it together in that spring break period. But nonetheless, if you have any questions about my purchasing decision or the process of getting this car in general, feel free to leave them down below. And I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. So thank you guys for watching.